Let's do it.
Sounds right.
This is the Trade Show's Unhinged podcast, a podcast from the Facebook group You Know You Work in Trade Shows When. This podcast centers on trade shows, live events, and experiential marketing activations in today's world. Your hosts are Todd Nall, who is the owner of Showbox Exhibits and the creator of the Facebook group You Know You Work in Trade Shows When, and Mike Morrison, Vice President of Sales for WS Display. The clock is ticking, so let's get busy and get to it, and we'll do just that after this.
Need a presenter? Your Event Audio has you covered. Closed-circuit audio equipment with turnkey operation at your trade show booth, live event, or private event. YourEventAudio.com is the place to go. DJ services, MC talent, and a whole lot more. Check out YourEventAudio.com today.
Well, you probably recognize that, I believe it was a 1990s hit from Michael Jackson. Could have been late 80s, 90s, but the applicable aspect of that, if you're wondering why we're playing Michael Jackson's Working Day and Night, is because for the trade show live event industry, that's kind of how it's been here as we get ready to move into fall, but we're still in August here on Trade Shows Unhinged. For our fourth edition of our show, our fourth episode, we appreciate you jumping in. I'm Mike Morrison, VP of Sales for WS Display and co-host of the shows. You can see there on the screen, Todd Nall is back from his worldwide trip of business and follow-ups and all kind of craziness. That's why it's funny. It's why we're a week late. We actually should have done this show last week, but when your co-host is in the terminals at the airports, it's kind of hard to sit down and have a discussion. So we appreciate your understanding as to allowing us a week to play catch up. Hope you're doing well, sir, and having a good week so far.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back. As you get older, the road is just not as fun as it has been.
No, not a bit.
Especially when it was 4 cities in basically 4 days, 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, so, you said you were here in Atlanta for less than 24 hours.
Yep. In and out. New York, Vegas. We did a Nashville show. It's crazy right now. It's one of the busier summers.
That's it. I mean, you're kind of you're in Houston, Texas, so you're right in the middle of the United States. So you get to dance around in Central Time. For me in Eastern Time, like I'm getting ready to go to Vegas for Printing United and some client visits with my colleague out in the West. And I'm there for 10 nights from the 3rd through the 13th. So now this old guy has to deal with acclimation of time zones, and that's never good.
Honestly, 10 nights in Las Vegas is too long.
Way too long.
Way too long.
Yeah, especially in September, where it's still reaching three figures in temperature. Yeah, it's going to be tough. But let's dive into some subjects here. We actually had a listener viewer reach out to us. Actually, it was about a little over a week ago. And I want to read what he wrote here. He said, "Hey, guys, great podcast so far. 2 episodes in and learning a lot. Can you do an episode?" What I mean, I'm assuming he means here, Todd, is an explanation about pavilions within trade shows. How do those happen? How much do they cost? What exclusivity can a company expect? His company is a market leader in a sub-industry. I'm not quite sure what that is, but within his industry, let's say. And I'd like to know if we should be sponsoring a pavilion. Now, you and I, Mike, talking about this a minute ago, our experiences, and we kind of qualified that between each other, is pavilions are usually a segment within a trade show floor. And it's usually a group that has some type of symmetry together, whether it's an international pavilion, it's a country out of Canada, they have a Canadian pavilion, they have the Mexican pavilion, and so forth. Or it could be a section within a trade show that is more like a rental area. It's like, we don't want to buy an inline, a peninsula, or an island booth. We don't have stupid money, let's say, and to go out and buy this huge footprint. But we could afford a segment within a pavilion that might be of an industry segment. Let's say, let's just take piping, for instance. And within that pavilion, there's different providers within the piping industry. They could actually go in and find a 10 by 10 footprint, get a little bit of furniture, maybe a counter, some chairs, some basic graphics, and a header, and boom, they're in business there at that trade show. That's been my experience of a pavilion. Maybe you could elaborate a little bit on that and broaden the horizons a little bit.
Well, I mean, no, you have it right. It's not the true traditional sense of like a tent within the trade show. Pavilion just means a gathering of exhibits within one space. Let's say it's a 20 by 50, 20 by 90, and there's, several 10 by 10 sections where these businesses split the cost basically. And it's usually countries like OTC has the German pavilion and the British pavilion. It's a way for smaller companies to exhibit at international shows for kind of a fraction of the cost of what it would cost for them to do the entire footprint themselves. So, but yeah,
absolutely. So I hope that answers his question. If not, ping us back and let us know what explanation is. I think what threw us off was sponsoring a pavilion. We assume you meant to say, should you participate in a pavilion in a space?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it comes down to, what your ROI expectations are within that space. If you're going to spend $2,000, let's say, for an entire package within a pavilion, you got to look at the attendee balance of the show. How many people are coming? What do you basically feel you could, get retrieved from that show and turn that invested money into business? So, and then you got to turn around and compare that to buying a display where you have your thumb on top of exactly what you're going to show, and you're not restricted as much in space as you are in a pavilion setting. And then figure it out from there. But, another thing to do is go around and ask people who have been in the pavilion at that particular show before and see how, they've gotten return on that investment, if it was a wise decision or not. But it's an interesting discussion, especially now as companies, Todd, try to figure out what to do. Where am I going to spend my money? Especially now we're in the second half of 2024. And that kind of leads us to our next topic. A lot of people may or may not be familiar with UFI. Now, UFI, the acronym is UFI, and they are the leaders in the global exhibition industry, and they do a significant number of studies. Kai Hattendorf, I've known him for several years. Back in the Todd and Mike days, he would come on and talk about UFI's global footprint of what they do in studies and what they find out. And they do one each year about this time called the Barometer, the UFI Barometer. And I shared this with my company last week in a company meeting, because the question is, what does the second half of 24 look like? Everybody has been throwing the I word around, it's inflation. And the R word is what I meant to say, and that's recession. That's the one that's being thrown around. So if you're having recession being discussed, then how do you sit here and talk about 66% of the people in North America surveyed in this barometer expect an increased industry operations in the second half of 2024, 27% expect normal levels, and 5% expect reduced operations. So a significant amount of the majority are saying we should see growth. In the first half of 2025, 52% are expecting increased industry operations, and revenues are expected to grow by 13% year over year in the North American region. 14% Mexico, 9% in the U.S. So they're looking at North America as a whole. Yeah, as a whole, United States and in Mexico, more in Mexico than the U.S. That does make sense. 49% expect an increase of more than 10% in operating profits compared to 23. These types of numbers that are being thrown around, and then compared to what sales are doing, compared to the feedback we get from our clients, and especially as we draw nearer and nearer to November, I'm just really I kind of question those numbers on the offset. What is your thought about that?
Well, I mean, obviously this industry is not paying attention to the junk that's in the the news about the the election. So this is encouraging. These numbers are great, and I'm with these numbers. We are seeing very, very steady growth this year. I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. So you have the election coming up, and others are saying that there could be a recession ahead, but it's not showing up currently in the amount of orders. I say orders, the amount of exhibits that we are building for our clients at the moment. So I just think these are disconnected, and I think this is probably likely the reality of the economy. It's actually stronger than they really think.
I tend to agree. It's funny you say that they're not paying attention. That's there's so
It's a lot of noise right now.
Yeah, there is. And so what do you focus on? Well, you focus on business, and you focus. I know that's what we're doing. We got 3 new regional sales managers. I spend every day out there saying, "Go get it, go get it, go get it."
Mm-hmm.
And if that's what you're focused on, you are going to get increased sales, because when you start it here and you give more effort, then you're going to climb. But you have to look at it from the bigger picture, and I get that. I find it very interesting to see how the rest of this year plays out. I think it will be growth. I just don't think it will be on the growth level of what we saw in 23. I just can't see it sustaining that. But especially with our next and final topic for the first half of our show, there's a company out of Chicago who I've known for a long time, back since early days of podcasting. They're called Employco. Employco is an HR human resources company for many companies within our segment of the industry, but also other industries as well. So it's real entertaining to listen to what the HR challenges are within our industry, feedback to them, and also in other industries. But they came out with a newsletter just before we started recording today. This is Thursday before we drop on Friday. And they did a little bit of a newsletter about trends. They call it HR Trends for the second half of 2024. 7 things that HR should be concerned with in their organizations for the remainder of the year and possibly into 25. First is employee attraction. During 21 and 22, it was the employee who was holding the reins.
Right.
They had the steering wheel on telling you, Mr. Employer, what we will and what we won't do.
Mm-hmm.
What we are seeing, though, the labor metrics show that the worker-friendly employment landscape has recovered the employer, not the employee, and it gives more leverage back to the employers. However, attracting employees can be a little difficult still, especially in niche areas. So, but it's interesting how that's beginning to shift a little bit. So that's interesting. Pay transparency, still a big thing. They want to know everything about the pay, what's expected of them. Artificial intelligence is at the top. What's expected from the employee to know, what they're expected to implement in their day-to-day operations. That should be important. Well-being and productivity is right there at the top, as we see, time off, it's become, balanced, and everything for the employee and the job is there, and has to be an HR consideration. Learning and development is another category that they want you to focus on from an HR perspective. Voluntary benefits. That's interesting. Benefits are pretty much have been standard across the board. The benefit structure has changed a little bit, what's included and what's not, but benefits as a whole is a lot of reasons why people are working, especially health benefits. But and then finally, the one that got me was election season, meaning that you should, as an employer, take advantage of allowing your people to have time off to go vote. And I was like, whoa, hold on. Unless I missed something, there's still early voting. There's absentee ballots. There's other ways that you can vote. You don't have to vote on the company dime.
Don't forget mail-in.
And okay, but even those are more restrictive. I get that because of what happened, 4 years ago. I just find it this whole summary here, in the whole flavor of it, the entire way it's leaning. Believe me, I'm an employee, so I get it. I win on these situations, but it's the trend aspect of this that kind of makes you go, you wonder just what direction are we going and what sticks and what won't, especially in our industries. And I'll turn over that final word to you to give me your feelings on those.
I mean, on that, I've always voted after 5 o'clock. They stay open late. I remember it's dark when I'm voting. So, I mean, I'm okay with it because I'd like for the people to get out and vote for sure. So, it doesn't bother me as much. I just, if we're talking about other ways of voting, mail-in can probably be done away with, in my opinion. But, it's very easily manipulated, I think.
Early voting on days that, they usually open. I know where I live, there's one area, one location that you can go 5 days a week during lunch hour, whatever, and go vote. When those open, they're obviously not open now. It's still too early, but when they do, you don't have to go and stand in line for 4 hours, on company dime and cast a vote.
Right.
I don't quite understand it, but Lord knows we're in a different world these days. And a lot of it does conflict with this industry. I see it a lot. It's like I talk to business owners like yourself on the daily. And at the end of the day, especially in our industry that's trying to stay alive and trying to do what we do, you got to use smart common sense in there sometimes. And I question it sometimes. So that's where I'm at. And I'll probably get beat up for that statement. That's fine.
There's nothing wrong with common sense.
That's what I get. You're just too common sense, Mike. So with that, we're going to take a quick break. And now, some of you may remember we mentioned this on the last show that the old Don and Mike show reunion kicked off with an episode from the Chicago Randy that we did just a couple of weeks ago. And we talked to Jackie Hake on that show. On today's show, we wanted to bring in a veteran of the labor side that a lot of our listeners probably know, who know Nancy Virene. She is the director of account management in Chicago for Sho-Links. So she's well known in the industry, but she's one of the co-founders and co-directors, rather, of the Chicago Randy. So Don and I took a few minutes to talk with her, and we thought we'd share that during this show, during the break. So take a quick time out, come back with the second half of our show today, right after this.
From light boxes, towers, counters, and back walls to turnkey custom exhibits, WS Display is your partner in providing quality displays at extremely aggressive pricing to fit any reseller's budget. Make more profit by teaming up with WS. With a team of experts to assist with estimates, renderings, and CAD, to fulfillment, setup, and test fitting, quality photo proofs, and complete project handling from our East Coast, West Coast, and Pacific fulfillment facilities. We can be your partner today. Hit me up at mike@wsdisplay.com for more information.
I often joke about the boss ladies here at the Chicago Randy. You've heard from one. Jackie Hake is co-partner, co-boss, co-leader of this event. Without these two women, this would be very hard to pull off. And Nancy Virene leads the charge. She was the first one here this morning. I think might have been second or pretty close to it, right?
Yes, you were very.
It's very rare that I get here this early. The rain just wouldn't let me sleep. I was panicking. I'm like, let me go ahead and get here early, and I'm glad I did. To see everyone here at the Itasca Country Club get everything ready to go, because this is a new venture, not the obviously Chicago Randy, but coming here to this course and to this country club is new to EDPA Midwest chapter. And you guys, how do you feel so far? They seem to be very helpful, and it's a unique looking environment for a golf tournament.
Yeah, we've had it at the other club, Seven Bridges, for many years. So just kind of how the Big Randy does it, we thought, it was time to switch it up. And we happened to be able to get the Itasca Country Club, which is a private country club that does outings. So yeah, we're lucky so far. Yeah, they've been very accommodating, and it's a beautiful course. So
Do you remember Don at the Big Randy? It was Rich's club. It was in Johns Creek, and it was probably around, trying to think, 18, maybe 17 or 18. You remember that?
Switch it. They did switch it for what, 1 or 2 years, right?
It was 1 year specifically, but it was very, very nice course. And I remember because I actually did a video like this one, and I remember Rich coming up behind me, and we were talking, and I believe it was a young lady from Zarnowski. We were just doing an interview like this, and Rich comes up on a brick wall behind us. And you know Rich, right? And he got right in my grill, and I'm like, oh, look, it's Rich Johnson. And we're sitting here talking. He goes, I'm just wanting to come and ask where the bathroom was. And that's a standard joke of, it's the trees all out there. And I still have that. As a matter of fact, I think I reposted that video just recently on the new Randy Smith Memorial Golf Classic LinkedIn group that Gina Picaro started. And this, and you've 21 years you've been doing this, Nancy. You've probably got a lot of stories about what's going on and has gone on with this event. You could probably tell about.
Yeah, we definitely do have a lot of stories, but every year the event is better. It's growing. It's getting better. We always have a lot of stories. Some we can tell, and some we can't really want to tell. So, but yeah, it's been a really nice ride.
Truth hurts sometimes when you know the story, you just can't tell it because of fear, mostly out of fear, because they will share some stuff about you too. It's a double-edged sword. So let's talk a little. Jackie talked a little bit about what's going on this year. I see there's a table over there of what they call experience raffle. What's up with that?
Yeah, that's our opportunity raffle. It's some of our larger gifts that we received, and you have the opportunity to pick which one you want. So you put your ticket, they're 3 for $20, and you put the ticket wherever you want, and we pull a ticket, and whoever gets their ticket pulled wins.
Now, one thing last year, and I don't know if I've just missed it or if it just didn't get into the mix this year, was a table that you had. Was it a recipient table that recognized that?
Yes, we had a recipient. Last year was our 20th anniversary. So we did a recipient table of the, some of the last 20 years, and then last year's. We kind of mixed it up a little bit. So, yeah, we pay tribute to them in our 20th. So that was a nice table.
What else is going to be unique about this year's versus maybe some of the previous years? Or has it just been a situation of everybody's just so doggone busy that we're lucky to even have it?
Well, a little bit of both. We have the new club, so that's really our highlight this year is the new, is the Itasca Country Club being new. So that's probably our biggest change. Everything else is pretty much status quo, like the golfers are used to. But we always have some really new and exciting raffle gifts. So, I hope everybody has a great time and likes the new club.
It appears, correct me if I'm wrong, that your sponsorship levels have just majorly increased, or is it just me being I've seen these names so many times, but I've seen some names, just new names that seemingly pop up.
Yeah, we are seeing a lot more new sponsors and new faces golfing, with us. The last 5 years or so have really kind of escalated. We don't know exactly why, but they have, and we're happy about it. So keep coming. Yeah, keep on coming, everybody.
All right, let's end it with this. You always refer to Don as Donnie. So that means there's a story there somewhere.
That's a Chicago thing.
Yes.
It's what?
Yes. Everyone in the south side of Chicago especially puts the Y's on them. Tommy, Johnny, Donnie, Joey. Yeah. Everybody, whether you like it or not, we put the Y's on your name.
Yeah. So thus I'm Mikey. Is that it?
If you want to be, you have to earn it though, Mike.
Oh, I haven't earned it.
You got to be a south sider.
What was I thinking about, Don? I just thought maybe you had done something to earn that.
Oh, it's just the way it is around here, That's how it was at McCormick Place.
That's hilarious. I just realized I've heard that so many times. Anytime I talk to Nancy, it was always, well, is Donnie coming with you, or is Donnie doing this? And I'm like, well, if you're talking about Don, then okay, yeah. But I was just curious.
Yeah, no, that's it. It's all about the south side of Chicago.
It probably is some stuff about pizza there that's related to. I don't know.
Yeah, could be.
Oh wow, Nancy Virene, the co-head of the Randy Smith Memorial Golf Classic here at the Chicago Randy, and we'll take a quick break and come back with some more interviews after this.
Showbox Exhibits, headquartered in Houston, Texas, where they specialize in design, fabrication, and management of your trade show displays. At Showbox, the difference starts with listening to fully understand the unique brand story that's needed. Then they create an innovative, compelling concept that reflects specific event objectives. From static trade show displays to fully custom, oversized exhibits featuring multimedia graphics, Showbox brings your company's message to the masses. Showbox is a trade show, convention, and environment design agency that is full service from start to finish. They're based in Houston, Texas, but they serve worldwide. They've been creating exhibits for over 20 years. Showbox Exhibits at showboxexhibits.com. I always have a lot of fun with Jackie and Nancy specifically, because she's one of those Todd Chicago ladies that does not hold back. She works in labor. She does not play. She will tell you just the way it is.
You have to be tough.
Whether you like it or not, and shoving a Chicago hot dog down your throat while you're doing it. So it's, don't say ketchup.
She sounds fun.
Oh, she's great. They're great. They're great people. I really enjoy that. The Atlanta Randy Smith is actually coming up next month in September. We also have Get Out of the Gutter, the Atlanta version of their fundraising input activity. That's this coming Thursday night in Atlanta. So I'll actually be doing some Don and Mike stuff from there. But for our next show, that'll be right in before the Atlanta Randy happens. So the EDPA Foundation and all the work that they do for the Randy Smith and people get set back within this industry is amazing. There's millions of dollars that have been raised in an endowment to help people within our industry. So it's all, if you don't know anything about it, hit me up. I'll be glad to tell you all about it, because it's been going on now. This will be the 30th year of the event that's coming up in September at Chateau Alon.
Love it.
But we'll have more on that coming up in our future show. One final note that we'll talk about before we wrap things up, and I mentioned it. I mentioned a company meeting I had last week, and it was interesting about Las Vegas, obviously #1 trade show city in America. And what happened back in, I believe it was November, that the F1 Formula One race took place in the Strip and all around that area of Vegas, where they shut down the roads, pretty much what they do in Chicago and other towns, where they mark off all the streets and you race around town.
Long Beach, Detroit, a lot of cities do it.
But they've got time invested in that. They've years, right? They've done it. Well, this was the first one in Vegas, and Vegas is just a little bit different geography. You've got casinos up and down a strip, and you've blocked off all that area. And obviously the money-making mechanism for Vegas are those casinos and those resorts. Yeah. Right. So a lot of complaints came after that event. There really was. The locals.
It wasn't just after, it was months before, while they were trying,
everything was shut down. Right.
Yeah.
And that was the problem. And so what I read in the Las Vegas Journal this week, actually last week, reported that they have invested $12 million in partnerships for the ongoing of that. I believe it's like a 13-year something agreement they have they signed prior to this. Yeah. But now they're going globally and spotlighting Vegas for F1. Including branding and fan engagement at 15 upcoming races. So they're really, Todd, all in on this. And you being a racer guy, you being the guy who likes to go fast and turn left, right, and upside down, could probably talk a little bit about your feeling on this one. Is there a conflict of interest here between Vegas and F1 as compared to these other towns that you mentioned? Or is it they should have a piece of the pie as well?
No, I think they need to continue. I have an opinion as a fan of F1, which obviously it was it was a mess to a lot of the locals, but it was the best race of the season to watch. It just turned out great. I mean, it was a huge success for the fans. Keep in mind, Monaco does it in the middle of their town. Baku, all of these towns have got it figured out. I think Vegas can figure it out. The problem is what happens is that the actual circuit encompasses entrances of hotels and all these things, and they've got physical temporary bridges over the track so people can actually get into work and come out. So as a fan, I loved it. I did do some shows there during the construction and during the setup. And I did see how it disrupts flow, and but I think they'll figure it out. I really do. It's bringing a ton of revenue unrelated to gambling to that town. But I do feel that some of the hotels need to back off on the greed a little bit, because you're seeing some packages, one ticket, $100,000 just to, sit there at a great seat. They need to kind of back off on that a little bit. And I think they did kind of feel the pain where they were having to reduce some prices right before the event to get those sold. But I think they have something good going, and I think it'll work out. It's a great venue and it's a great race. Night races.
Now that they've got one under their belt,
right,
they probably could speak a little more intelligently about, okay, here's the checklist of things that we need to do better for the next one. And we may not get it at 100% on the next one, but we can make strides to be better than we did the first go round. Is that your assessment?
Well, yeah. One of their biggest mistakes is they forgot to weld certain things down, and one of the cars pulled one of these drain plugs out of the ground and destroyed the floor of the race car. And they had to retire that car and actually rebuild it, get a new engine in it. It was a major disaster, big delay. So hopefully they have things like that figured out. But
you probably should have that welded down anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, interesting. I saw this story, and especially with the impact of what happened with locals, because if the locals are mad, they're not coming to work. They'll call it in that sick, and all of a sudden you've got labor issues that we don't need at these resorts for shows and activations, everything that goes on. It should be interesting to see how it plays out. Final thing we'll talk about. You usually don't talk about this on the show, but you and I were off mic talking a minute ago, and that's sponsorship of our show. We've actually had some people kind of crop up and say, hey, we'd like to, have our exposure on this show, since you're getting out there to so many people, and our analytics are very good. We're having very strong viewership. YouTube is really helping us out a lot. I mean, we're getting tons and tons of views on the daily of our show. So if you have an interest in that, Todd, we should have them email us in. You see the ticker there at the bottom of the screen. It's tradeshowsunhinged, all one word, at gmail.com. You could hit us up at any time, and we could certainly talk about it, right?
Absolutely. Always up for opportunities to for like-minded companies or companies within this industry who are also interested in the show and want to be a part of it and advertise. Yeah,
that's another thing too. If you're going to you work in trade shows, and what I've seen along with you and I are kind of co-handling that approval aspect of people coming in the group. Make sure you answer those 3 questions. It's not hard. We're just trying to control who comes in and make sure that the bots aren't getting in, or any kind of infiltration from our non-allies, because we don't need that kind of disruption that what's happening with the Elon Musk and Donald Trump 2-hour interview. Did you hear about that the other day?
Yeah, I heard
40
about
minutes.
it. Yeah. I heard about it. Yeah.
No, we're going to be next. They're going to come in and hawk our show and do something to it.
We've been hacked.
We've been hacked. We don't need that.
That's a good point. In regards to the Facebook group, I've kicked around the idea for a while as companies have approached me because we don't allow promotion or advertising on the site, because we're trying to keep it a very quality site, and we do not want to be for it to be inundated with spam. Sure. And so we just don't allow any spam. We don't allow any self-promotion right now. But there are several companies that have approached me and asked if they could advertise. And I'm for it. I'd like to hear some more feedback in regards to how, if you want to advertise on the site, how do you see that working, and how what kind of benefit do you want to see from it? I just don't want it to turn into a page full of ads, and then people will lose interest.
Sure, absolutely.
So, yeah. So maybe, I've kicked around ideas of like, one day, like a Tuesday, everybody, if you have, a post that you want to put up Tuesday, Tuesdays, 10 o'clock, whatever, and go about that. But if you are interested in advertising, just hit us an email at tradeshowsunhinged at Gmail, and we'll get back to you.
That, and also if you've watched the spots that WS has and Showbox has on the show, if you're interested in doing it from that angle, you're more than welcome to hit us up with that as well, because we do have a good following, and we'd like to continue it here at Trade Shows Unhinged.